All right, folks, we are back here on Straight Out of the Cannon. Straight Out of the Cannon right here on WLTH 1370 AM. It is 7:43 in the PM. 7:43 in the PM on Friday, May the 3rd. The future is here, folks. The future is now. And so why am I letting Brother Peter Tosh bring us in from the break? It is because the Biden administration is supposedly planning on reclassifying the weed. Yes, marijuana. They are poised to ease restrictions on marijuana in a historic shift, but it will still be a controlled substance. Now, for some context here, thank you to our friends over at the Associated Press. The U.S. DEA will move to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The Associated Press has learned a historic shift to generations of American drug policy that could have wide ripple effects across the country. Now, this proposal, which still must be reviewed by the White House Office of Management and Budget, would recognize the medical uses of cannabis and acknowledge it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous drugs. However, it would not legalize marijuana outright for recreational use. So my man Peter Tosh is going to have to wait a little bit longer for them to legalize it. The agency's move, which has been confirmed due the Associated Press on Tuesday by 5 people familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive regulatory review, clears the last significant regulatory hurdle before the agency's biggest policy change in more than 50 years can take effect. Once the OMB signs off, the DEA will take public comment on the plan to move marijuana from its current classification as a Schedule I drug alongside heroin and LSD, and it moves pot to Schedule III alongside things like ketamine and anabolic steroids. Now, following a recommendation from the Federal Health and Human Services Department. After the public comment period and a review by an administrative judge, the agency would eventually publish the final rule. The proposal will be formally signed by Attorney General Merrick Garland, whose agency has ultimate oversight of the DEA, according to another person familiar with the process who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Garland's signature throws the full weight of the Justice Department behind this move and appears to signal its importance to the Biden administration. It comes after President Joe Biden calls for a review of federal marijuana law in October 2022 and moved to pardon thousands of Americans convicted federally of simple possession of the drug. He has also called on governors and local leaders to take similar steps to erase marijuana convictions. The election year announcement could help Biden, a Democrat, boost flagging support, particularly among younger voters. Biden and a growing number of lawmakers from both political parties have been pushing for the DEA decision as marijuana has become increasingly decriminalized and accepted, particularly by younger people. A Gallup poll found that 70% of American adults support legalization. 70%. And they're still not going to legalize it, folks. But they say it's Trump who's a danger to democracy. We don't have a democracy, folks. The highest level yet recorded by the polling firm and more than double the roughly 30% who backed it in 2000. The DEA didn't respond to repeated requests for comment. Now, Schedule III drugs are still controlled substances and subject to rules and regulations, and people who traffic in them without permission can still face federal criminal prosecution. Now, let's talk about what this is really about, folks. Joe Biden is trying to buy off young people who are mad about this genocide in Gaza. And this has always been the issue I've had with the Democratic Party. At the same time, always, should I say, always say you can't be friends with the rapist and the rape victim. You cannot be friends with corporations and the public. You cannot be friends with the Zionists and the people and your corporate donors and the working classes. These things all conflict. And so Joe Biden spent the entirety of the 1980s and 90s helping to lock up every drug addict and drug user in America, except for the ones in his own household, might I add, his children. And even in this administration with Kamala Harris, who herself has spent many years locking up lots of people, especially black people, for marijuana, they actually fired a bunch of people from the Biden administration just for saying that they had tried marijuana. And this is after he promised to help legalize marijuana. So what we're seeing now is Donald Trump is pulling away in the polls. And because of that, Biden is taking the most tepid step possible. Not towards legalization, but just merely rescheduling. And I think it's important too to talk about the history of marijuana criminalization going back to the Great Depression era, the Jazz Age as well, where it was so that black men would use marijuana to entice white women. That's why marijuana is illegal, because the drug czar at the time was a racist, very racist man named Harry Anslinger. And he said that marijuana would be used by black men to take advantage of white women sexually. And so that's why it was a Schedule I drug, along with cocaine, which they also said that would make black men impervious to bullets. It would make black men rape white women and then become impervious to bullets, should I say. So pretty much all of our country's drug laws have been about vilifying and villainizing black men and creating a fear of black male sexuality. And so I think it's a little bit half-assed, if I could say that, to just say we're just going to reschedule it, especially considering that, again, the black community is the community that votes for the Democrats the most, voted for Joe Biden the most, especially black women. What are you going to do about all the black men you incarcerated throughout the 90s and the 2000s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, with your drug war logic and your drug crime bills and all these other things? What are you going to do about that? You see, this is the type of things that me and Jonathan used to talk about all the time on our show, and even in those car rides we'd have. We as black people don't hold these people accountable for that. And it's about time that we do. Just saying I'm going to reschedule a drug that the criminalization of it has ruined millions of black people's lives. I'm sorry, Joe, not good enough. It's almost time for me to get up on out of here. But before I do, let me get this caller. Hello, caller. Thank you for holding.
I'm calling back, man. You were talking about Dozo. Now when you said Sleepy Joe, you used to call him Sleepy Joe, but let's call out Dozo. Now, he did drop a gas bomb in there. Now, that gas bomb he dropped was for distraction. He should have dropped 3 Beanos, Now, I would, like when you go out and you ate some bad food, see, his diet is bad. When he's scarfing down, Big Macs and fries and apple pies, man, that makes your diet bad. When you eating the right food, you don't be gassy like that, man. He should have dropped them 3 Beanos. Now, listen, this is what I want to say. Now, when you say Pfizer, that Pfizer have caught up that fentanyl and drug deals from coming out of the South. Now, that's what it has caught up. Now, they didn't exclude themselves away from that all the way. Now, what they did do, they read it up for 2 more years. I'm glad they did.
Why?
They got a net over everything anyway. They hear everything. They hear what we saying now.
Yes,
You
that's the
understand what I'm
problem.
saying?
That's the
That ain't
problem.
the problem. That ain't the problem when they shipping fentanyl in here, heroin and cocaine. What we saying ain't about
Oh,
nothing.
stop.
Because if you were saying something about something, they'll be rapping at your door. You understand what I'm saying? I'd rather
Stop.
for them to hear what I'm saying about nothing than they're shipping in heroin and cocaine and fentanyl that's destroying this country. Now listen, you don't got no children right now, okay?
Okay.
Now this what you do. You worry about your crying baby. Now with my family, I got 6 of us, all right? When our babies were all together crying in a room, when we were all together, everybody went for their baby. Now I done picked up 2 babies at one time. You worry about your crying baby. You don't worry about what's happening over there in Palestine. That's their
I will
problem.
worry about my tax dollars being used to commit a genocide and being used by the military-industrial complex when it should be used for schools and it
But
should be
your
used for
tax
health care.
dollars-
It
but
should not
listen,
be
your tax
used.
dollars is crumbs. If this man gets in, you're gonna have boots on the ground. You never seen chaos before, right?
Oh, here we
You
go.
are going to see chaos in your lifetime, son.
Oh yeah. I
They're
agree
trying to-
because we
wait a
let our
minute.
government go too far and pass bills like FISA, which shred the Constitution.
but you ain't
We have
saying
constitutional
nothing.
rights, sir. We have constitutional
They're not gonna
rights.
be knocking at your door, though. What you talking about ain't nothing. When they send it,
Constitutional
you
rights.
know when people are making 100 racks a minute. People make 100 racks a minute.
I'm more worried about the
fentanyl and
government.
heroin.
I'm more
What
worried
you
about
saying
the
ain't
government than
nothing.
heroin. I'm more worried about the government than heroin. But thank you for your call. I got to wrap up, brother. It's all good.